Could it be that our inner issues carry a weight that holds us back from the peace of mind that we really deserve? And what does it take to be set free of our anxieties and limitations? Welcome to Healing the Heart series, where Dr. John Gray addresses the issues and presents healing processes for releasing the negative energy that is hidden many times from our conscious awareness. Dr. Gray is highly acclaimed for his methods of uncovering these blocks so that we can detach from them and move on. In these tapes, you'll hear easy-to-understand lectures and then the actual processing exercises to help heal those specific areas in your life. If you're listening in your car, we recommend that you wait till you're not driving to do the processing exercises, so you'll have a safe, quiet place where you can be undisturbed for the half hour or so you'll want to spend doing each important visualization. Remember, just as a newly tuned piano will need periodic touch-up work to keep its harmonious sound, we also need to refresh our healing awarenesses. And repeat cassette listening is one of the most convenient ways to keep ourselves in tune with our personal growth. So sit back and relax. Here now is the enlivening, informative Dr. John Gray.
Which is, as children growing up, many times we worried way too much about our parents' problems. If our parents had problems and they would throw tantrums, which parents are supposed to have outgrown. Okay, ideally parents have outgrown that, but as children were growing up and we throw tantrums, that's normal for children to throw tantrums. So we're throwing our tantrums, then our parents start throwing tantrums. And as little children, we then feel that we're somehow wrong or bad, and we've caused their unhappiness. And this is the wrong way around. It should be that the parent sees that, oh my gosh, I'm throwing a tantrum, this is a mistake, I shouldn't treat this child this way. It's my job as parent to take care of the child. I can behave in a civilized way. The child isn't expected to behave in a civilized way. One of the wonderful things about healing the past is to become a parent. Just as a plug there for being a parent, I have 3 children. And part of healing my own past and my own childhood and some of my early experiences in life was realizing that my parents really did do the best that they could do. We had 7 kids in my family, and it's hard to be there. It's impossible to be there for all your children's needs when you have 7 kids. It is impossible. There are going to be wounds. There's going to be hurt. Sometimes it's the people who say I had the perfect childhood. They have a lot of love for their parents because they knew as children their parents could not give them any more than their parents gave. But the reality is that they did not get what they needed. And when we don't get what we need as children, there are wounds, there are scars, and those scars affect us for the rest of our life unless we heal them. And that's what we're going to be doing this weekend, is healing some of the wounds of our past. They can be past wounds from childhood. They can be past wounds from adolescence. They can be wounds from our 20s, from our 30s, from our 40s, from our 50s. Anything in the past, the right now, we're going to be healing. And you'll just see what comes up for you. There's a space in this room for everything to come up. And what it means for it to come up is for memories of your past to come up. Now, the problem with this is some people think, oh, I've dealt with that before. Well, whatever you think you've dealt with and you've handled, for sure is going to come back to you. Okay, it's like a basketball. You throw it down, it bounces back up. I pray for people when I hear them say, oh, I handled that, okay, or that I've done with that. Because whenever we close our eyes to the past, it's then going to come back up in the future. It's going to come back again. This is the whole concept of repeating patterns. How many have already noticed as you've matured that certain patterns have repeated in your life? Okay. 20 years ago, I started teaching seminars 20 years ago. It was a tremendously insightful seminar just to talk about how our patterns repeat themselves. Well, that knowledge is pretty much out there. People are now very conscious of the fact that our lives are very magical in a sense, and that everybody has their own sort of unique set of patterns, and they tend to repeat, and they tend to repeat, and they tend to repeat. And we go, my God, how do I change this? How do I stop this? Why is this happening? Am I just doomed? Is it my karma, or is it my jinx or whatever? No, it's not. The past repeats itself for a good reason. not a bad reason, and it doesn't mean it has to repeat itself as intensely as your past. Because sometimes when I say that, people who've had very painful childhoods go, oh no, and they panic, oh my God. It's not about that. It's about the past comes up again and again and again in your life so that you can heal it. Now, what does that mean? Let's just say, well, something that happened to me recently was somebody didn't pay me for my services. It was a shock. It was a seminar that I taught somewhere, been teaching for many years, and all of a sudden, got no call, got no letter, and got no check. And there was a big bill for a lot of other things, got no check for that. Anyone ever have something like that happen? It's like shocking. That's called betrayal. Okay? Everybody has experienced some betrayal in childhood. Why? Because as children, our hearts are totally open. We're trusting. This is why one of the reasons we don't want to trust. Sometimes somebody's there with love, we go, whoa, whoa, back up. I don't know if I want to trust this. Because as children, we have trusted completely. We've opened our hearts to our parents. And they have not always been there for us. Sometimes they couldn't be there for us. But inside, our subjective reality is, they hurt me. They betrayed me. Anyway, so this event happened for me. I'm giving you a context of the usefulness of healing the past. And we'll start learning how to do it. And then we'll start doing it. So this event happens. And I could easily, as an adult, say, this is terrible, this is awful, and get all upset about this thing. I didn't. First, personally, I'm a very spiritual person. This course has a lot of spirituality. I know that I always get everything I need. And that's something, it's a theme in this course. I always get everything I need. Unless I'm all the time focusing on what I'm not getting. See, if I go, oh, I didn't get this money, oh, I didn't get this money, oh, I didn't get this money, I'd be worrying about that and putting all the energy and time into trying to get money that's not there and lose vision of all the places where I can get support over here. I'm using an example of money right now, but it also applies to love, of course. That's the metaphor, but sometimes money is more tangible. And it just happened a few weeks ago, so I'm talking about it. It's just one of those examples of something that just happened. So it's like this shock. Now, I can process this or deal with this as if this is this thing that this person did to me, or I can look at, well, how did I contribute to this? And I've looked at that. That's the adult side of it. But there was this part of me that was really upset. Emotionally upset, disturbed, hateful, mistrustful. What I've noticed is whenever I see anybody that looks like this person, okay, and they're coming out of the woodwork, okay, it's phenomenal. I mean, it just keeps coming, and there's a song with this person's name in it, it keeps coming up on the radio, you know, it just, and this is what will happen. It's just like, I can't run away from it. And I don't want to run away from it, because the truth is, if I run away from that, it has to happen again. It has to happen again until I deal with it and I look at it. And then once I've dealt with it and looked at it, it comes back again, but in a softer form. In a softer form. Easier and easier and easier to deal with. That's what we have to look forward to, and that's what I've experienced through all this work that I've done. Because I started 20 years ago doing the kind of work I'm teaching this weekend, and I thought I handled it. You know, I did that, I processed that, that one's done. Well, the pattern came back, okay? But what happened is when it came back, I was able to deal with it in a better way. And when it came back again, I was able to deal with it in a better way, in a better way, in a better way, until eventually I can deal with it in a very loving way. And I'm getting close. I won't say I'm totally there, okay, with this particular pattern. And once I've dealt with this pattern, there'll be another one. There'll be another situation. Or another pattern I'll discover about my past or whatever. So in dealing with this situation of this person who's now ripped me off, betrayed me, and hurt me, I'm upset and I'm dealing with my feelings about it. I could easily project it all on this person, or I can say, wait a second. How does this relate to my past? Why is it that this happened to me? It's such a surprise. And I go back and I remember one of the most traumatic experiences of my childhood. I was 9 years old, and one of the ways I got love as a child growing up was getting paid. That's the way my father sort of manipulated us was, you know, do this and I'll pay you. And he paid well. I mean, and I learned the system, and I was rich as a kid. I mean, I really had a lot of money, and I got paid for grades, and I got paid for, you know, all kinds of things. And the way my dad would pay us is we all had this little checkbook, this little black book. And he'd say, okay, now you have this much money, now you have this much money. I had several $1,000s, you know. I was just a little kid, and this is like 30 years ago, okay? I'm 39 now, so that was like 30 years ago. So I was very, very wealthy, and I had much more money than my brothers, and I would go around buying them presents, you know, from my little black book, and thousands of dollars in there. And I felt very wealthy. And then one day my dad came in and said that I've discontinued the checkbooks. I said, you can't do that. You promised. And he says, well, I don't always keep my word. I was stunned. I was shocked. In that moment, Daddy was just taken off the pedestal. I mean, I was just literally betrayed. I mean, I thought I had this money, it was in hand, and he took it away from me. Now, what I did in my reaction, which is a reaction which is deep inside of me, it's a pattern, it's part of my imprint, part of the way my palm looks, the way my fingerprints are. Everybody has their own unique reactions to things. My reaction when someone betrays me is to punish them. And I was going to punish my father. And the way I was going to punish him was to make him feel really bad for doing this terrible thing. So I attempted suicide at 9 years old. So we used to have this chloroform gas or fluid that we had lots of cats around our house, and sometimes they get run over, and we put them out of their misery. So I'd seen my parents do this. So I went and got the bottle of the stuff and poured half the bottle into my pillow and started breathing it in deeply and went to sleep. It didn't take very long, and then I kind of got up and said, that didn't work. You know, and I was like, I was furious. You know, the whole time I was so righteous. I'm going to show you, I'm going to kill myself, and when you find me dead, you'll feel bad for what you've done. You'll do that, okay? You'll feel terrible. Okay? Now, that's the gut reaction. That's the reaction. It's a child response to something, okay? Reaction as opposed to response, dealing with it in a responsive way, which is, come on, Dad, let's negotiate here. Let's work on this deal. Children don't know how to do that. We just react. And my reaction at that time was, you do this to me, I'm going to punish you by making you feel bad. So I did that. That didn't work, so I had half a bottle left, so I drank it. Anyway, I agree with you. Thanks for your response. It's so nice to have a whole group going, oh, God, the poor kid. Okay. So I drank the bottle. It was just, like, awful. And I was sick for a while. I never told my parents about this thing until later. Later years, I've told them everything. But they go, when they hear these stories about my child, they go, oh, no, not another one. Oh, no. You mean, yes. But I was, and literally for years, whenever I was experiencing stress, this awful taste would start coming up. Okay, it was like this ether-like smell, and it would be just this awful, yucky heartburn kind of a feeling. Went all the way through my 20s. I don't have it anymore at all now, but it was just disgusting. And every time that it came up, I was able to remember a very important lesson for me. It doesn't serve any purpose to punish someone by punishing myself. And I got to see that over and over and over, that my dad hurt me, and my reaction to it was to hurt myself. And that's not a healthy reaction. And a lot of us have that reaction inside. As a matter of fact, there's two basic reactions when we're wounded, when we're hurt, when our feelings are hurt. One reaction when we're hurt is to hurt ourselves. And the other reaction is to hurt back. I did both, which was, I'm going to hurt you back by hurting myself. And many of us will do that. Some of us won't do that. Some of us are too loving to hurt back. And what we do is we hurt ourselves. If you look at people, and we can consciously hurt ourselves by being critical of ourselves, by blaming ourselves, by putting ourselves down, by making ourselves unworthy, by feeling that we don't have the right to exist, to ask for support, to be loved. Has anyone ever gone in and you wanted to ask for a raise and felt real uncomfortable? Can you relate to that? You know, you want to ask for more. Or somebody says, well, what do you want to charge for this? Like they're going to pay you anything? And you go, oh my God, what can I, you know, it's just like the computer banks go, wow, what do I deserve? What do I deserve? Not knowing what we deserve. That's another way we hurt ourselves, by putting ourselves down, beating ourselves up. I do something and then I judge it harshly, just like I felt my father used to do. I still remember one time I read him an English paper, and all he did was correct it. All he did was tell me what was wrong with it. I had a teacher to do that. I didn't need my father to do that. I never showed him another paper again. And again, that was part of my basic imprint reaction, which is a very common one, by the way, but not the only one, which is, if you're going to hurt me, then I'm not going to let you hurt me. That's one. I'm protecting myself. But really deeper underneath that is, you don't deserve to read my paper. I'm not going to let you be my father. I'm going to push you away. And I'm bringing up these examples because deep inside, we all push love out. We've been wounded by love. And when I say wounded by love, love really doesn't ever wound us. Because when someone's loving us, it only heals us. But we've been wounded by what felt like love. Okay, which is, here's my father. He takes care of me. He cares about me. He does. And then, boom, that person who's my caretaker wounds me. So here I was, suckered into trusting somebody was going to be there for me. And it hurts a lot when our heart is open and then someone betrays us. And that betrayal happens, we feel wounded. We hurt ourselves, we start judging ourselves, we criticize ourselves, we internalize the negative voices of our past, or we externalize them and we become very judgmental of others. We hurt back. We become critical of others, we become judgmental of others, we cheat others, or we rip them off, we do whatever, or we're cold, or we're thoughtless, or we're unforgiving. Unforgiveness is the way we hurt others. I'm not going to forgive you, then you're going to feel good. I'm not going to let you off the hook. I know one young man, I'm counseling him with his father, two wonderful people. They're getting back together and healing. But in childhood, his father was very violent. He was scared of his father. He rejected his father. He rejects everything that his father represents. And consequently, his father is a very wealthy man. He's never been able to make money. Because if you reject your father, what happens is whatever good qualities are there, which is the ability to keep a job and get the result, even though there may be negativity associated with the way he does it, but he rejected all of that. And for this young man to find his power to create results in his life, he has to forgive his father, because in forgiving his father, then he lets the part of him come out which is like his father, which can make money. Okay? So he's rejected his father. Now they're getting closer, and this new power is coming into his life. I just want to emphasize, because we're going to be doing this work today, the more I've forgiven my father, the more my masculine energy, my masculine power has emerged in my life. The more I've forgiven my mother, the more my feminine power has come out in my life. It's so important that what we reject in our parents gets rejected in ourselves. It all comes back to ourselves. When we're not loving others, we're not loving ourselves. Well, to go a little bit further with this, as they're getting better, his father would like him to come to the house for a social gathering with the family. And he has this resistance to coming to this social gathering with the family. Why does he resist? Because this is his father giving him love, and they're getting this relationship back together. But his father says, come on up for the big event where the family's going to be here. He doesn't want to go to this event because there's one part of him that says, I'm not going to go to this event and let you say to everybody, see what a good son I've raised. See, now he's going back to college, and he's doing all the right things, and he's feeling good, and he's looking good, he's dressing good, he feels really good, he's connecting with his father. His father wants to now say, see what a good job I did. And the son feels these tendencies to sabotage the whole thing and break off the relationship again, which he could do. We've got to be real careful here, because there's this sense of, deep at the gut level, I'm not going to let you take credit for this. I did this in spite of you. You did not cause my success. You are not making me successful. You have failed me. You hurt me. You ripped me off. You hurt my mother. You weren't there. You were an alcoholic. You ripped everybody off. No way will I go there and be your loving son. Although in my counseling office, he's happy to be a loving son. And they're getting along real good, and they're forgiving each other and all this stuff. But when it comes to the test, that's what it is for him, that's where he's got to keep working through his resistance. But his resistance is not in present time. That's what we have to remember here. See, as human beings, we live in present time as adults, but our past is with us. It still affects us, and it comes up at all these times. So all he has to do is think about going to that party, and he's no longer an adult. He's back to that little kid, feeling the things he felt as a child, but now having the power to say, I'm not going to do what you say. As a child, he had to submit. He was dependent upon that parent. He couldn't let those feelings come up and be heard. So it's my job to help heal him, is to hear those feelings and support him in those feelings, and then to help his adult make a reasonable decision. Which brings me back to my original example.